We did. Bam! So, check that out. Little crunch test. Sounds crunchy. Super delicious. Good morning, I'm Nate with FAFOKitchen.com, and this morning we are getting started with our focaccia bread. The reason why we're starting off this morning is because this entire process could take you up to 6 hours to complete. So with that being said, let's go over our mise en place, what we have in front of us. So we're going to start with 1 3/4 cups of water. We have 1 tablespoon of olive oil. Next we have 3 cups of flour, 3 teaspoons of salt, and 5.5 grams of active dry yeast. And our topping today, we are going to go with sage and rosemary. All the ingredients are going to be right here at the top. Now what we want to do is mix all of our ingredients together. So again, 3 cups of flour, 1 3/4 cups of water. We're going to add our salt, yeast, and lastly our olive oil. So what we want to do is we want to combine this. You don't have to really mix it too hard. You just want to make sure that we get a nice even mixture going. So after this comes to a nice uniform mixture, what we're going to do is we're going to cover this with a damp towel and let it rest for 1 hour. After we let it rest for 1 hour, we'll come back and we will play with it. We'll fold it in on itself and then we'll let it rest again for another 30 minutes. So as you can see, we're almost getting there. We're almost getting to that uniform type of mixture. You don't have to beat this up too much, just nice and uniform. I think that will work. So, as you can see, it's nice and uniformed and mixed together. So, let's go ahead and drop a wet cloth on this and we'll let it rest. Alright, so we've got a wet damp towel. So what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and cover it up, let it rest, and we'll be back in an hour. Alright, we're back now. It's been an hour, so we're going to unwrap this. Here's what it looks like for right now. Now what we want to do is get this out of the bowl. And we're going to fold it in on itself. So let's go ahead and get it out into a rectangle type shape, and we'll fold it back into thirds in on itself. Flop it over. Right there. There's no need to overdo it. So what's going to happen now is we're going to go ahead and place it back into the bowl, just like that. And then we're going to go ahead and cover this one more time. And now we're going to let it rest for 30 minutes. We've let this sit for another 30 minutes. And a quick tip. I know it says sheet pan, but I've screwed this up before. I've used this size. Now the recipe that we have going on right now, it fits perfectly for this. This is about a 9 by 13, about 1 1/4 inches deep. So use this. Not this. If you use this, you're going to end up with like a thin crust focaccia bread. It's not going to work. Let's go ahead and see how this dough has turned out so far. All right, looks pretty good. Our next step here is we want to generously oil this pan. We want to make sure we get all the sides too. So there's no exact measurements for this. Just get it all lubed up. Make sure we get the sides, because hopefully if this thing rises, what we want to do is we want to stretch it out to the corners. And I think we're going to call that good enough. Now, this next step, or this next stage, is totally out of your hands. Now it's all about letting it sit at room temperature. This could take up to 1 to 4 hours. So that's why I said you got to get up early, because this thing could take you an entire 6 hours to make happen. So I think it's about as good as it's going to get. Now we'll just let it rest for 1 to 4 hours and see what we get. So we'll be back later. All right, here we go. That looks pretty awesome. So it took a little over 3 hours to rise to this level. I think it's just due to the fact that it's a little cold in the house today. So the next step, what we want to do is dimple it, add salt, a little oil, olive oil, and we're going with rosemary and sage for today. And then once this is all done, we're going to throw it into a 450-degree oven for about 30 minutes, or until GBD, or golden brown and delicious. So let's go ahead and nipple this thing. All right, now that we've got this thing all dimpled up, let's go ahead. We want to salt. Then one last time, we're going to add just a little bit of olive oil. All right, and then our final topping, which is rosemary and sage. Again, the portion size is totally up to you. Whatever brings the most flavor is what you're looking for. So this is like 2 sprigs of rosemary, 2 sprigs of sage. All right, 450-degree oven, hopefully only about 30 minutes. All right, so it's been about 25 minutes, and it's looking like it's done. Let's go ahead and pop this thing out. Okay, now that we've got it all golden brown and delicious, let's go ahead and pop this thing out. Now this is the hardest part, is trying to resist that temptation of cracking right into it. But what you need to do is you need to wait about 15 to 20 minutes before you slice into it. All right, moment of truth. Let's check out the bottom. A little GBD action there. So let's slice it right down the middle and see how we did. Bam! Focaccia bread. Out. All right, check that out. See if we get a good crunch. Money. Until next time. So, check that out. Little crunch test. Sounds crunchy. Super delicious. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Holla!